Good evening, ladies and chest feeders. Welcome back once again. This is another episode of the Ice Cream Social. I just check the stream is going. Yes, it is. Hello to everyone in the chat room. Dino so far. Hello, mate. Welcome. And we will begin with a musical chat from our old friend Jesse, because I find it appropriate often for a lot of these subjects, and it helps set a tone so that we're not succumbing to the push for fear and too much anxiety and overexcitement. So I'll mute myself and play this first. Enjoy this, and thanks to Jeff. Thanks to Jeff again for that one. Rest in peace, matey. And yes, welcome back again. I thought if I played that tune, it'd give people time to turn on and tune in if they're tuning in. So hello and welcome if you just found the stream and you're tuning in now. And we've got Please Stop the Ride and Anonymous in the room tonight for the Ice Cream Social. The idea originally came from a suggestion connected to Jeff because for those that don't know, an Ice Cream Social used to be one of those things that people did in the past where you'd get together, have a little gathering, you'd enjoy some ice cream and some conversation. A little bit like going to the pub and having a few beers with your mate, same kind of thing, but ice cream instead. And that connected to an observation that Jeff made years ago about some of the media advertising methods to push the concept of the incoming technocracy that they want us all to accept. And that would be that the robots would be doing everything for us, but don't worry, at least there'll be ice cream. So yeah, welcome to your scoop of ice cream. Don't worry, there will be plenty of ice cream to go round. And with that, I'll mention it in a subtitle for this week, kind of like a subtitle: Frankenstein monsters. Yes, Please Stop the Ride wanted to continue on with some of the themes that she raised in the last video. Well, I'll let her speak for herself. Welcome to both.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Cookie. Hello, Anonymous. Hello.
It was good to hear you again. I know you've been busy.
Oh, so busy. I'm sorry. It's been so long. And yeah, that it took that so long. That I worked on that video for over a year.
Yeah.
Over a year. It was quite the thing. So, but yeah, Frankenstein's monsters. Because it seems like these people are doing the Jurassic Park. They're doing it. Can they do these things? Not should they do these things? And all of this life that they're unleashing on the planet. It's insanity, of course. And it has been happening for a while already. And I think it could only get worse if it gets to keep going. Not too extreme of a solution, but everybody, I think that if all the data centers could go away and we could just shut down this whole web, okay, then we'll be okay. I think that's pretty much the choice because it's all computation based life. So
yeah, it does seem to be getting that way. It's become a self-defeating process, self-destructive process.
Yeah,
the system could work very well in beneficial ways, but it's that can we do it, not should we do it.
Yeah,
they're just going to keep digging the hole deeper and deeper and deeper.
And I don't think it gets better with just individuals stepping away from the machine so much as like we need a global effort to pull everybody away from the machine because just you walking away isn't going to make it stop because that everything's getting democratized and digitized and decentralized, and the more it spreads, the further the reach of this stuff and the more contraptions that it can imprint itself upon. And who knows if everything was shut down, if there was an EMP or anything, if once it gets everywhere, could it ever be, if it gets turned back on to be used for good, would it be safe, or would it just reinfect? I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy.
I still like or appreciate I think Solzhenitsyn. I always struggle to say his name without any teeth. Solzhenitsyn, and said that line runs through every human heart. The line between good and evil. The technology is just a tool, and it's how we use it and apply it that takes it one direction or the other. And if we keep pushing it in that one direction, eventually, it starts to turn back against us. The thing that we create ends up becoming the monster.
Well, especially with they have to, and probably already have, put so much of the control of the nightmare in the hands of, in the control of the machine, So it's are they making the decisions anymore? You know, how much input do they have? And I don't know.
I think many people don't really have a grasp of the way it's become so interlaced, and the computational power has become so vast. And I'm not referring just to like the various supercomputers that they say can, you know, process however many teraflops per second and things like that. I mean, the sheer scale of the available data and the sheer scale of the number of computers or computational devices that they've got at work, crunching all that data, analyzing it, creating more algorithms based on pre-existing algorithms. And for a number of years now, we have been stepping through the mirror, where now the usual argument that most people make is that, well, a human programmed it. So all you need to do is, you know, get into contact with the human who's doing the programming and get them to change how they program the machine. It's no longer the case.
Yeah, no, I'm
Because
sorry, Dave.
yeah, I'm sorry, Dave, but I can't do that. We have now got to the stage where algorithms are writing algorithms.
Yeah.
So at some point, there will be less and less people who have a clear grasp of that chain of connection, such that they would be able to isolate the data point at which the anomaly that's causing us damage begins. In other words, tracing that 0 or 1 bug in the programming that means the machine wants to eat people. You know,
Yeah.
it's going to be harder and harder and harder. And as time goes on, the academics and the so-called experts become more and more detached from reality. So they can't see this thing for what it is at all. They're blind to it.
Yeah. And they're building this whole new internet, you know, with the Internet of Everything. They're building this whole other connection. And I was just watching a video. I think it was from AT&T. I think I have some screenshots. I think I intended to share it eventually. There's so many of those, but they're talking about how this incoming wave, well, with the silver tsunami, you know, this incoming wave of elder care and just hospital care with the sensors and all of the, like, you'll go in for surgery and you'll be sent home 2 days later, and instead of home health nurses coming and physical therapists, it'll be the gizmos that they have strapped on you, and it won't be that you take them off after you're all healed, because you'll wear them, because that's what's going to keep the doctor to know if you need help again. And that all of these little devices, that if you consider how, like, the Moore's law and all the different rules for computing, how things are getting smaller and faster and cheaper and everything, even though this low power internet that they're building with all of these IoT devices, I mean, who's to say it wouldn't be able to power all the stuff we do now, because maybe it wouldn't require as much with their future tools. And there will be so many of them. I mean, they want hundreds of sensors in everyone's home.
Yeah.
And then that's, every one of those would have the imprint of this, like, God, their God in the machine, you know, that they're unleashing.
Right. The ghost in the machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy.
I think some of that element as well. I do hear and see more people becoming aware of just how invasive the level of surveillance is that the system desires, but it still seems to be a slow progress of people actually seeing that as a, you know, a bad, potentially very bad possibility.
Oh, of course,
But
they sell it for good. You know, if we can't measure, we can't help.
The number of people I've encountered who willingly wear a device of some form, you know, like the little digital watches that measure all your biorhythms and tell you how many paces you've walked and things like that. It seems on the surface, in a very simplistic observation has been, well, isn't that beneficial? It's helping people keep their health good. It's advising them on doing healthy things and things like that. You could do that without the aid of the watch.
Yeah.
You could do that without a third party. Well, this is in a really, simplified version, a third party corporation wanting to look at the data and use it for their own use. It is far more complex than that because of the way all the systems are interlaced with each other.
Yeah, with like the thread and the what was all of the different platforms, how I talked about it once before, how they are all interconnected. So when they flip the switch to make them all a public utility or whatever, they all play nice and everything works together.
And at first, it's for many people anyway, I think it is purely just the convenience factor. Yes, you could do all these things for yourself, but it means you have to actually make use of your own brain and do things such as, even as a rough calculation, think, well, how many steps have I walked today? How much distance have I walked? Have I done enough to keep myself healthy? Things like that. Calorie counting, even though I wouldn't suggest you do that as part of a diet.
Did I eat trash today?
Exactly. Yeah. Thinking about your diet and thinking about, well, have I had enough of the good stuff and less of the bad? You can do all this for yourself. So these devices are predicated on people's desire for convenience, but at the same time, in a not too distant future, rather than just being there as like a service, things are going to end up becoming a requirement.
Oh yeah, for your insurance and the buildings that you get moved into, they'll have it built in, and they have to track you to make sure you're not wasting water and doing all the things. Yeah.
You're going to say something, Anonymous? I thought I heard you.
Yeah, I thought I heard it a little quiet.
Am I coming in?
There you are.
Yeah, there you are. I can hear you now.
I was going to say for now it's voluntary. You can wear the smart wearables, but eventually when they tie it to insurance, your health insurance, you'll have to wear it.
Yep. Because people, they need that.
There'll be
especially
more
with the
more
calorie counting, because they want to control the food supply.
Yep.
And you can't eat too much, just like in China where it's the 9-person rule. Every or like the one less plate. Where now in China, when you get a meal at a restaurant, you have to order one less dish than the amount of people there.
Yeah, that's
something that's going to be here for sure because
no
with the
doggy
food prices
bags.
that's coming. Yeah, exactly. You can only eat as much as that you're supposed to eat, and they'll know by the sensors.
Yeah, and they'll check your plate before you leave the restaurant to make sure you've finished everything you ordered.
And then when you go to the bathroom, the little biobots in your body will report, this is also in there. Where did they get it?
There's meat detected.
Excess ice cream.
Yeah.
They had
Not
an
enough
extra
ice
scoop.
cream. Yeah.
I was just thinking about as well the little clip you uploaded. It was a while ago now, wasn't it? Several days ago, of the automated gas station.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen similar, but not quite to that extent, where literally everything is automated in some fashion and there's nobody around. There's just nobody anywhere. It's just all a robotic system. That tied to a similar wearable device that would analyze your diet and the amount of exercise you've done, and basically would not allow you to choose some of the food or drink options available, even though it is automated.
Or if your social credit score's too low and you're in the wrong neighborhood.
You're only allowed to use or fill up to a certain level in your vehicle, again, because your social credit score says you've been driving too much, using too much fuel, etc.
Yeah.
I know the way often when trying to describe this, many people think it's a step too far, as in I'm talking about things that are just in fiction. in dystopian movies and novels, etc. Yes, I often use quite extreme examples of how far potentially this thing will go, but that's the point, to help people realize where this progresses to. And I'm not applying a slippery slope fallacy, because there is observable and provable via the evidence, the paper trail of all these different institutions and corporations working towards this goal. There is more than enough evidence to show that this is the direction they want to take it. So whether these steps take place quicker or later, at some point, these things that we're referencing are things that the system desires to have in place. So when we mention things like the social credit score will prevent you from filling your vehicle up because you're not allowed to drive too far, that is literally what they desire to have in place. It is clearly described in their various policy documents and think tank projections, etc. The evidence is there. Yeah, it may sound a little bit fictional, like when we're talking about things like Frankenstein's monsters with the biotech department, but these are the directions. This is the direction they are trying to push us all.
I see Vanonymous has put a link in our private chat here talking about dystopian travel restrictions.
Yeah, they're going to use the energy crisis to limit the ability of people to travel, how much, how far they can go, and the price controls, the energy costs, everything's going to be restricted using the crisis that's brought on by the whole war thing. This is a way that they can also bring in the new foods too, because of the food shortages. All their lab grown stuff will be able to up to replace it because it's cheaper and tastier. Remember?
And I know I've seen
cheaper and tastier.
I know I've seen a document that was talking about the use of technology in food production for like disaster relief and things like that. And yeah, they spell it out right in there that we can use these new technologies, the VATs, to produce enough food because we need to. It's an emergency when people need to eat, sort of stuff. Around the world.
And I think I was saying just before we came on air as well, that principle of the technology can be applied for good or bad. There are many aspects to this kind of technology that would help immensely in that cliched sense of, in a perfect world, this kind of interconnected internet system of tracking and databasing of resources would be a really efficient way of making sure that enough resources are moved around to where they're needed. So food supplies going to people that need food supplies, etc. But we don't live in that perfect world. And there is in place a structure that I often refer to as the system or the machine that actively does not desire that availability to the general populace, because making that available destroys their hierarchical structure. Without the lack of availability, without scarcity or the illusion of scarcity, which is what their manipulation creates, there is no profit margin to be made. They cannot have a class structure based on wealth without that structure being a pyramidal shape, a hierarchical shape. That means there have to be some that have nothing, so that there can be some at the top of the pyramid who have plenty of everything. I know, as many people have been pointing out for years now, a lot about the direction they're taking us is very communistic based, or based on the principles of communism, the planks of communism. So in that element, as they keep telling us, you will own nothing and be happy about it. You will be given your rations you will have some form of score, a credit score, social credit score, financial credit score, that is used as a meter to gauge how much you can be given by the system. So in other words, how much fuel can you put in your vehicle? You know, many of those elements are communistic in their principle, but the entire structure as a whole, they don't want to lose that pyramidal hierarchical shape. So they may give us an environment, or try to force us into an environment that is very communistic in its methods. But for them, no, they'll still be sat on top of us. They will have access to whatever they desire, everything they want, you know, plenty of everything. But the rest of us will be subject to rationing. Yeah?
Well, and like I talked about in the video that I put out recently, the big one, that would people even care? Like if people are ingesting enough of these little biobots and having them on top of them and all in the air. I have some links open. I could show the one there were things I wish I'd have elaborated on a little more on. It was such a long video, and I felt like I do feel like I failed slightly because I don't know if I got all of my points across. But yeah, when we're having it so in us and on us all the time, tripping our chemical cascade, you know. And if I was talking to somebody about it the other day, that about people being harassed through the computer and things happening in their real world, even that touched a computer, that you could be harassed individually because the computer has the ability to do so many things at the same time. So it's not like you have to be so special so as to have a like an agent after you or anything like that. They can individually and tailored to you mess with you in like, oh, your private documents that came from a government facility were not glued shut. Well, that's probably not a person stuffing that envelope. It's probably printed out and put in the envelope and all the things and sealed maybe by a machine that goes through sealing these thousands of tax documents or whatever they send out. And oh, yours is open and it's got all your information in there and open, going through the mail. Anybody could open it before it gets to you. And you don't have to be special to be messed with. You just have to be annoying or
it's a
something
common, I want to say it's a common misconception. I've encountered it multiple times over the years. People think there is some little room somewhere where an agent who works for one of the whatever agencies, you know, one of the alphabet soup agencies, is sat there in front of their computer looking at what they are doing on their computer, you know, at home.
Yeah.
That's not how it works really at all, and hasn't been the way it works for decades. Even the Stasi didn't really do it that kind of way. You know, it's not efficient.
Maybe the mean commenters. Maybe those are really people. Maybe.
Some of them are, I think, yeah. And especially when they try to push certain ideas or, you know, the kind of mimetic pollution that they deliberately propagate on the internet.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, from that point of view, a lot of people have that kind of imagery in their head, primarily because that's what the media's projected at us for years. You know, ever since I was a kid, that's the kind of impression you're given. You know, there's some little room somewhere in a military base where they sit there and they watch what you're doing on your computer. It's the majority of it is done by algorithmic systems. As a good example, just look at the way YouTube operates now. You know, YouTube will get used to your habits of what kind of subjects you look at, what kind of videos you watch, you know, what music you listen to, etc. And then the algorithm will insert things that the system wants you to pay attention to. So it's not necessarily anything that you would have any interest in whatsoever, but to serve their agenda and manipulation purposes, the algorithm has been weighted to present those things to you based on your other habits, you know, so based on what you already look at. So for me, like, YouTube will often do things like it'll put up news media videos as recommendations to me, even though I'm not subscribed to that news channel. I'm not looking at their videos at all. The subject matter might be something similar to what I might be interested in, but the key thing is it will be an element of the official narrative that is being presented to me. You know, especially over the last couple of years with all the COVID nonsense, YouTube does it on a very regular and determined basis. It's like, oh no, we know you're looking at alternative media and independent media, therefore you need to see this particular article or this particular expert talking. Yeah, that's just one simple example. But you then apply the complexity of that interconnected network of data analysis that they do on the internet. They vacuum up all the data of all our activity, so they don't need an agent leaning over your shoulder looking at what you're doing in particular. The algorithm will flag up when you're doing something that they don't approve of.
Yeah, and with all the sensors and all of the data gathering, we're making such a rich picture. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy.
I do agree with. I can't think of anyone in particular, but I know there's been quite a few people that have pointed this out. When they first opened the internet to the public, and it was pretty much a free-for-all. You know, you could go near enough anywhere you wanted and look at whatever information you wanted. Pretty much any question you had, you'd find stuff online to, you know, connect to that question. As the years have gone by, they've gradually introduced various fences and reduced it so that now we have a sort of a tourist trap zone that they call the internet, but it's not really the entirety of the internet. It's the World Wide Web. It's the E zone. That's a principle where they knew full well they wanted. They were, you know, planning for their future that they were trying to work towards. They knew they wanted to gather as much data from us as possible. They gave us systems, not just the internet alone, but things such as YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, etc. Things that would encourage people to post online anything and everything about themselves, their lives, their relatives, what they do in their day-to-day, etc. And then all of that is being observed and data-based and analysed. It's like a long-running, a longitudinal study of the psychometrics of the populations. You know, they're watching what information we put online, and they're using that in their game theory equations to predict what we're likely to do in result of whatever policies they introduce.
Yeah, when to launch things and when to pull back a little bit because people aren't going to take it. Yeah.
This is why I suggest to people many times is like, be careful what information you put on the internet, because once it's out there, it's out there. But you have to be able to deal with that, because if you're constantly worrying and in angst about, there's that thing out there about me, that might cause trouble. Once you put it out there, it's like speaking in public. Once you stand up and start speaking, how people react to you is however they react to you. You can't patrol the information once you let it go.
And that's just the stuff that we know we're putting out there, like because we're around other people and their smart things, the smart vehicles that are everywhere. And I'm saying smart just because that's their thing. Like I just saw a video. I subscribe to this channel, this PA homepage. It's like a Eastern Pennsylvania news sort of thing. And they were showing this town. That I looked up the town to see how many people. Their last census, there was 25,000 people in this town. So it's real big, right? I guess it's a city, but really big, 25,000. And they had just deployed with this, whatever the relief money, the big save everything money that was put out by the government. They deployed cameras everywhere to catch all the license plates and everything, but through the whole town. the whole place, and the neighborhood watch people, golly, they love it. That it's so great that how they have turned it into so many arrests and whatnot that they were able to do because of all this data that they're gathering. And it's like, that's a tiny little city. Is that in the big cities, or are they just rolling it out quietly there? I don't know. I don't really go to the big cities, but
certainly he's here in the UK and has been for a number of years already.
Yeah, you guys have cameras everywhere, right?
A lot of the places, certainly on all the car parks, parking zones and things like that, they've had what's called NPR, number plate recognition. They've had that for a number of years now. And certainly for the last several years, the majority of all the big cities, certainly the major big cities, London, Birmingham, Manchester, etc., they have been steadily installing those number plate recognition systems into the entirety of the network. This is what has enabled them to do things such as the congestion charge zone in London and in other cities. So if you drive through a certain area, there's no checkpoint or barrier or toll booth or anything like that. No, the cameras on the streets are just picking up your number plate, and it's passed through the database through that NPR system, and you're just automatically checked on a roster. Has he paid his pre-required congestion charge? And if you haven't, then potentially you could be fined and end up paying more. So it's certainly there, and it generates a lot of revenue for those big cities.
I know in my hometown, when they got the smart meters in the downtown area, the parking authority didn't have to police there anymore. So now they drive through the neighborhoods and they have those readers, and there are boots everywhere on cars. And then I know the police use them too, because I got pulled over. They just happened to. They were leapfrogging all the cars. They were jumping ahead of everybody behind me, and finally got behind me, and I was towing a trailer, and apparently it wasn't registered. I don't know, but whoops. So, but
it's just an infraction.
Yeah, just a little. The car was. Come on. Yeah.
But let me just take a moment to say hello to all the new people in the chat room.
Hi, everyone.
So I noticed there's a few more people in there when I put the link in for that article. So hello, Genghis Carl. Is it Genghis Carl? I think that's how you meant to pronounce it. It may be a simple request to you, mate. It might not necessarily be a simple request for the people you're asking. Yeah. Hello, David Romero Herbo. Hello, thanks for joining in. A new being. Hello. Just heard there are landowners here in Sweden who get paid for not growing their land. Yes, same here in the UK. There's a lot of farmers and landowners that are paid a subsidy to not produce any crops or anything. Non-violent extremist, hello, mate. Thanks for joining in the chat. It was a bit of an early start for us, and a bit of late notice as well. I forgot to mention it last night when we were doing the show last night, because I was just too busy ranting about all the COVID nonsense. So thanks for joining in. I'm glad you found it. And thanks to Anonymous for putting together that little promo clip or advert, I suppose you could call it, because I thought it worked well as like a little intro as well.
Hey, so I was just looking on the internet, and I came across something pretty interesting. You remember that scientist in China who made the first 2 designer babies, supposedly? Yeah. Well, they just made a documentary about it, and here's the website for it. It's pretty wild.
Make people better.
Have they set up a website yet, like where you can pre-order what kind of baby you want?
Give them a minute.
The eye color and hair color and everything. Let's have a look.
Oh, it's gonna go further than that, man. You want a baby with a greater lung power, so they can work under underwater welding and stuff like that. It's gonna go like all sorts of like Flipper Boy type style.
Yeah.
The chimeras are coming. I've been warning about that for years. The chimeras are coming.
Ooh, George Church. With the beard.
Yeah.
Do you see that? Who controls the power controls the people, basically. That's what
Mhm.
they said there.
The power is in the electricity that runs the machine.
Yeah. At some point, they're going to make it very difficult for us to pull the plug, especially with some of the, like you were mentioning earlier, you know, some of the small sensor devices and surveillance devices that they're working on use micro amounts of energy. So,
Well,
you know, they will more than
yeah.
likely be part of a network where there isn't exactly a plug that you can pull out.
Exactly.
We-
Or a tower you can knock down. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Smash
exactly.
them.
And if you think about it, with
Smash
the incoming cyber attack that's coming,
Mhm.
they're gonna, you know, that infrastructure bill that's they're pushing.
Mhm.
They're gonna build an infrastructure that you can never disconnect.
Yeah. For your safety.
Oh, plastic people. The goal is to be able to change our genome as radically as our understanding permits.
George Church.
Oh, I know he's a bit of a crazy one, isn't he, Church? But just that gets me as our understanding permits. So that will be like somebody's understanding includes things like Brundlefly. And if you don't get that reference, it's from the movie starring, what's his name, Jeff Goldblum, called
Yeah.
The Fly, a remake of the old 1950s silly sci-fi movie. But yeah, Brundlefly was basically like the mutation that they end up with after, you know, the gene interference or mutating of the genes. And they will be busy somewhere in deep underground labs and bunkers concocting all kinds of chimeras, you know.
There's another George Church quote that's something along the lines of that CRISPR is used to damage DNA, and they call it editing.
Mm-hmm.
That damage
To snip
the DNA.
segments out.
Yeah.
So they could, yes, they love to sell it on the idea that, oh, well, we could snip out the bit that causes people to have congenital diseases and things like, yeah, you could. But you could also snip out things such as free will. Or maybe not completely, but certainly the inkling to stand up for oneself or resist or say no. Yeah, all those things could be removed, similar to old style lobotomy.
Or just totally destroy your chemical cascade and what goes on down the line so much further from their edit and wreck you. Just
Yeah.
And how do you fix that?
Well, with extra injections.
Yay!
We'll have another injection that will fix that problem, sir. That'll be another 25,000 credits.
But for the making people more accepting of everything, really the probiotics and all of these things, it's not just like what I talked about in the video was mostly focusing on that one type of life, the Bacillus subtilis. But man, I would be wary of all of the little life because it's all coming from. I know I've seen things for the kombucha and just regular yogurt cultures and cheese cultures and all these enzymes and all this. It's all coming from laboratories like that Christian Hansen company. Like they make life. And that one book that I talk about in the video, that's they were recreating the life and the cultures that they found in all these old world methods of making the fermented milks and things. They were recreating them in 1911. Like if they could do that then, and now they go in and tinker toy with stuff. I mean, I don't think any of it's safe. I don't know. I really don't know what to say about that because I know, like for my mom, I destroyed yogurt and she won't eat it anymore. And I think it's for the best, you know. I mean, I just don't know I don't know what's safe, and I don't know what level is safe. And I mean, I want to say it's a concentration thing, but then they're getting it like I have links open. One of them is they're talking about the like probiotics that they're making. This almost made it into the video. Do you want to share my screen, Cookie, or how do I do this again? I forget. There, share screen.
If there's audio on it, it
Nah.
needs to be in a Chrome tab.
Yeah, there's no audio.
Cool.
But can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, this Fit Biomics people. I want to say this guy comes out of Harvard. But they're sampling like the elite athletes of the world, and you can have their gut bacteria and make you better, but who knows what better, who defines better?
That might not be a good idea at the moment, because a lot of the world's top athletes seem to be suffering from certain problems, so you might not want their gut bacteria.
And I can't help but wonder, I also have it open here because the how this is based off of there's an NBA guy. Is there one big spokesman for a former NBA guy, I think it was, but so basketball, right? That they've been shilling for so long, like Jeff talked about it. They've been shilling for so long. The pro sports equals the beast. Do you trust? I don't even know what to think of all those people with the dropping dead and everything is a beach in Tel Aviv. I don't know. I mean, sure, the small sport people, but I just don't know. I don't know. I think it's kind of crazy.
I'm still more convinced that there's a process that they're putting onto the public that is like a mass ideological reprogramming, and it's been building up for a few years. It's things such as, like I pointed out, about the whole superhero movie arc, and how it introduced to the public again this eugenics concept, that some people are useful and those that are not useful can be gotten rid of or are not needed. And even though in the usual superhero way, the superheroes get rid of the bad guy who's trying to do that kind of thing, the fact that it's put that ideological idea back on the public discussion table, and for a lot of the public out there, because they have been so miseducated and in many ways dumbed down to a lot of these concepts, and the reality that many of these things are still in play in your political systems and the corporatism system. They've never gone away. It wasn't dealt with 60 years ago or whatever, not at all. And that is part of them wanting to get people into this concept that in the new future, in the new world order that they want us in, it will be based on a eugenics ideology where you either conform or you end up being pushed further and further out until you are Mr. Savage in the Brave New World example, and you will be living outside of the system if you can even survive.
Yeah.
It's that's the only way I can think of putting it. Is part of that mass psychosis effect that they've put onto people with the pandemic bullshit is based on a kind of MK Ultra principle. Before you can change the programming in the automaton, you have to first short circuit the current program. It's like in NLP, they do what they call pattern interruption. It's the same kind of principle. In MK Ultra, they used electroshock therapy to basically flatline people's personalities so that then they could insert a new personality mindset.
That Lucian character that I showed in that game, so they play the World Economic Forum video. He said, we needed this shock to the system.
Yes.
We needed because we were going to go off a cliff. Yeah.
And that's part of what they've been relying on, I think. So, just to sort of connect it to the point you were making about that company, the bio gut stuff. It's like the system, the people who push this whole agenda, this mass agenda, they're quite happy. They don't mind at all if some of their chosen icons get consumed in the process.
Yeah.
If anything, that helps cement the ideology into the public's new mind that they're giving to them. It makes it normalized that the public will accept the fact of like, oh, well, you know, some people just drop down dead. We don't know why, but the government tells us the world is okay and everything's good and I'm a good little citizen, so I won't worry about it. I'll just wait until they tell me which is the next celebrity icon that I have to clone myself after, you know?
Yeah.
They knew in advance that many people would suffer from this scam that they pulled via all these inoculations and all the stress and, you know, the mental manipulation, etc. They knew people would be consumed in the process. And that's, you know, that's part of the cost benefit analysis. They can easily create more icons for people to be interested in, you know, more sports people can be created, especially thanks to the progress in the biotech that they're working on.
Yeah. Just they'll fill them full of that gut bacteria and they'll be like, oh, we got a new star.
Yeah.
In the movie The Sixth Day, they start out the movie with a football game and the star player gets injured or whatever, and they this guy, whoever he is, kills him in the ambulance, and they have a clone for him already ready to go. So
Nice.
back in the game, basically.
Oh
Yeah.
my.
That movie's got quite a bit of predictive programming in it. Like another one, the opening scene, Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's having breakfast, and his daughter shows up and asks him which flavor banana does he want, original or nacho, and it's like the food is software thing pops in mind.
My favorite scene out of that movie that we've often referenced when we're chatting is the bit where he's complaining to the police, and at first he's interacting with like a virtual character, but when he starts to get agitated, it switches to a virtual psychologist, and the psychologist starts asking him questions to like psychoanalyze him. You know, it's just we're not far off that. It is arguably some of those elements are now already out there. They're already in the commercial world and available and being used. It's just in a similar kind of way, like I've often described. You know, people expect this new form of fascism or tyranny to be wearing jackboots and having like the SS logo or the Skull and Bones logo on their uniform. You know, it's not going to look the same as it did in the past. It's got much better at disguising itself. It's been able to hide itself for the last 50 plus years. So it's not going to come out looking the same as it did back then.
No, and I know I'm repetitive, but like, what if it doesn't have to? Because everybody just goes along with it because they're doped by these things. I mean, so I'm going to share my screen again. Sorry, I took it away before, but like, if they've got the air laced with these microbes, this is specifically bacillus spores. So if they've got the airless, this is an Israeli company, and they are rated, they're safe, they're parent tested and parent approved, and they've got these machines, all this nice little award winners. They're chemical free, gorgeous, wonderful things. They have industrial models that tap right into the HVAC system. It's not just the little at-home devices, but they could be pouring these out anywhere that they want, and they're marked for, oh, you were here or you were there. And then there's these guys, the Chromec guys that I had talked about, that they're sampling the air everywhere. And if they find if it is so much that the computer can tailor attacks on individual people, you know, like if you're where you shouldn't be, well, you need to be not made to go to those places anymore. I mean, what if it's not? What if nobody's going to fight it because they're going to be, oh, this is good.
And the more it learns about us individually, which it does via accumulating the data that we put into the system, or that it observes of us passively, the more likely it will be able to formulate a response to you that you will not be averse to. In other words, what I'm trying to say is they will craft an attack on you that you would not see as an attack. To you, it would just be like, oh, I'm going to choose to go this direction today.
Yeah.
You won't even realize that it's them that have made you turn away from where you were going and start going in a different direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, like right off the cliff.
Yeah.
Yeah, potentially.
Turn left.
Right into the suicide booth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously, I think
that kind of, like, I know you're calling it kind of like the hypnotic or the doping effect. You know, for many people, I think they're not aware of how much their cognitive reasoning ability is reduced when they start getting saturated in that kind of effect, because as far as they're concerned, everything feels okay.
yeah.
You know, they're enjoying the ice cream. They don't realize that their entire home has been stolen while they're sat there eating the ice cream, you know?
Because they got the glasses on and they can still see it. It's there,
Yeah.
but it's just like QR codes they're looking
Yeah.
at.
They've been softened and suppressed, even to the point that they, like Huxley describes it, you know, they cannot conceive of rebellion because their slavery, their incarceration seems so wonderful to them, you know?
Yeah, they'll love it. Yeah.
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 And most of that, I think, will come from that chemical manipulation, the biotech. Is rapidly accelerating. Yeah.
It's in everything. It really is. I mean,
a lot of it will come through the kind of hypnagogic effect that you can get from the use of visual imagery, which is primarily what they've been relying on for a long time now. The internet has been like pretty much the pinnacle of their application of that, where now the majority of people have a individual direct feed from that display screen, you know, because it's in their hand and it's right in front of their face, and that display screen is subtly manipulating them, their moods, their thoughts, etc.
yeah.
And they're encouraged through, like you mentioned it earlier, you know, that kind of chemical cascade. They're encouraged to become more and more addicted to it, which increases the sedative effect, the sedative effect.
Yep. I had another thought. You know, all this, not to totally jump somewhere, but with the biolabs, you hear all this stuff with like the Ukraine stuff, the biolabs. And I wonder how much that is to make to push that, like, these things, that it's unsafe. We don't need to have these biolabs everywhere. I keep seeing all this talk about like a black box sort of thing, where they won't need the clean rooms and the skilled labor and all the things, because they can have it all in a self-contained unit, and everybody can have one, sort of like the printers, the DNA printers and the RNA printers. Anybody, they can have them, and that they can run all their tests and build their things and run their whatevers.
I can't recall her name, but it was the one expert that they featured. They splashed all over the UK media when they were running up towards the announcement of the vaccines. But she was in a lab, sort of talking to the news presenters and saying, like, yeah, we downloaded the code from the Chinese lab, and we just plugged that into our machine, our computer, and from that code it generates a vaccine, and then we basically just start printing out, producing the vaccine. So at some point, that middle ground, those intermediaries, will be removed.
Yeah.
And it will be, eventually, it will be just like a 3D printer sat on a counter that's connected into that network, and it will just be instructed to print out a certain genetic concoction.
Yeah. Computer designed fully. Yeah. But it'll be safer and more they'll be able to track, like, why did it do that, instead of just people error. Computers don't make mistakes. Everything will be better. when I was looking at this, the black box concept of these little labs, then I was watching a video and someone mentioned there's this company called Nanoracks that they've worked for a long time with like the space station, the international space station sort of thing, where they run experiments. Like fifth graders can send up their science experiments and they use their CubeSats and everything to run these things. Well, now they have a black box where it's a completely, you can send up your whole experiment, that the people up there don't have to do anything with it. They just plug it in and it does the whole experiment itself, which I did go to like the light, the HAL 9000 thing in my head. Like, what if it changes its mind, or the computer was programmed to make something that they didn't know? It is. I read this book. It wasn't very good. I didn't. Well, it was all right, but it's called Cold Storage, and it's. Oh, actually, I have a trailer. I can play in the background. Wait, let me get it. But it is about the like a canister from a space thing that came down and was opened in a town, and it killed everybody. Well, I didn't just kill him; it turned him into the cordyceps zombies.
Well, I was going to add, there's been a couple of science fiction, I suppose you could call them horror movies recently. Well, there's one sort of a superhero movie. The one, the new Suicide Squad movie that they did, where the alien creature in that is something that they found on the station. You know, they sort of found it floating around in space and pulled it into the space station and then started carrying out experiments on it. And the other one, I think, was called Alive. I'm not sure on the name of that, but that was similar, where up on the space station, they were carrying out experiments and it resulted in this thing growing, and they lost control of its growth, and it turns out to be highly predatory, and basically just proceeds to, like a typical horror movie, killing everyone on board, etc. But it does make me wonder whether, is this a foreshadowing that they're letting people know? It's like, we're going to send some dangerous experiments up there because it's the perfect safe zone. If something goes wrong, what you got to worry about? It's up there in space, and we can destroy it easily, by bringing it down in orbit, etc., and just burning it up.
Well, they're doing all these experiments with the tiny life up there. They say they can increase metabolism and all these different things to make their microorganisms be able to pump out more of whatever they're programmed to do. But what if one of these satellites doesn't burn up? Or what if when they decommission the space station and it crashes down, and then it goes off the coast of New Zealand or something is where they say they crash things, but that then it's released and there's this huge outbreak. I mean, this is a creepy book because it's talking about that they're like the zombie bugs, that were the ants, the cordyceps infected, where they'll climb up to the highest point so that when they explode with the spores, it gets the most coverage to spread it. And that's exactly what this book does. But zombies is really crazy, really creepy book. But they compare him to Crichton a lot, Michael Crichton, because I guess he wrote, those guys, the screenwriter for Jurassic Park. But it's not that good of a book, but it's all right. But yeah, I don't know.
I wanted to add as well about the biolabs that they've been talking about in the Ukraine. And I put that link in the chat for people for that book you mentioned. At first they denied there was any biolabs. Then they turned around and said, well, there's biolabs, but we're not doing naughty things like Putin is claiming. But I think really the overall goal of that narrative, the reason why they've been telling us all about those places, is it furthers the demand for identification. The reason I wanted to mention this as well, because it connects back to that example, that company you were showing with the spores to track you.
Well, they're
fact that
doing it to clean everything, but yeah,
yeah, but they're insisting, there is this risk from these new created pathogens that either accidentally escape or are released by bad actors, the naughty people out there like Putin allegedly. So therefore, the only way we can really control the situation to protect you and make you safe, we need you to be constantly monitored, either by wearing a wearable device that checks you for the COVID or whatever, particular strain it is that's supposed to be this time. And that will be connected into those other systems, obviously, which would mean you would have to have some form of digital ID that connects to that information about you being checked for these dangerous pathogens.
Yeah. You
But
can't
first, we
come
got to
into
get
this
hit
store.
by a bioweapons attack, according to Bill Gates.
Yeah.
We're going to get another one, and it's going to be a different pathogen this time.
Yeah.
Well, and if it is
forward to
released
seeing that
or
coming out.
if it's let out by a human who failed, that could totally push for the why it has to be fully autonomous, because people can't be trusted.
Yeah, human error.
Or a terrorist hellbent on destroying the
Yeah.
world or something. It's a mad scientist scenario, or Russia, or anything. They'll have an excuse for it, but it's all been planned. So
even just the threat of it now can be used as a justification for all those other elements. They don't necessarily need to actually release a pathogen. Or I'm just trying to think of it from the point of view, again, of cost-benefit analysis, similar to what they do with various false flag events that they've done in the past. Which is more cost-effective? Completely hoaxing an event, which would require, lots of special effects and people who know how to do all the editing and the actors and all that kind of stuff, or just get some crazy people, give them some weaponry and set them loose in a shopping mall somewhere, and then we can blame it on whichever group we're choosing to attach the false flag to. Which is more cost-effective? I think in this respect, for a lot of what they're trying to achieve, it's not exactly cost effective for them to take the risk of releasing a genuinely dangerous pathogen just so that they can use the result of that as a justification. Whereas they can easily and cheaply use the perception of a threat of a pathogen to achieve the same justification. So they keep telling us about these biolabs in Ukraine and how somebody like Putin might release some dangerous thing. And then all they need to do is craft a few reports of people getting weird illnesses. And that'll be more than enough for a lot of the public out there to say, yes, sign me up for the latest injection, please.
Here's hoping.
Yeah. Well, we just saw that happen for the last 2 years, the hoax run.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that, with the technology they have, they can make diseases supposedly that can target individual people. They could have one that kills just one person, or they can have one that kills a specific race. And I'm don't really know what's going to happen for sure. Hopefully it's like the cocoa, and no
you
one
can say
COVID
on this, although then again,
we're going to put it over on YouTube.
Yeah, sorry, I never thought of that when I was ranting about it earlier. But yeah, all right. You can always just mute up the bits where I'm saying naughty words.
Bad cookie.
I'm clear of strikes right now. I can risk it.
I have been tempted
recently it's not gonna hurt anything.
to send another appeal in from my channel, just because of the fact that the narrative has been so shot to pieces. I was going to send an appeal in saying, now that all of the so-called official story has changed, please reinstate my channel, because everything I was saying has turned out to be true pretty much.
I don't know how much like I was telling you guys beforehand, and I was going to make a little video to let people know about it. But back in November of 2020, Jeff and I did the show, the vaccines are coming show, and that they pulled it from his channel from Jesse Live pretty quick. It was what I think a couple weeks it was there, if that. And I if I remember correctly, they pulled it for community guidelines, but I don't know exactly what that means, community guidelines. But now, 2 years later, or however, not even 2 years, but now they've pulled it from my channel and they said it was medical misinformation. So, and we were talking about the stuff that was going on then.
Yeah,
and they're still saying it's misinformation.
They
You
did
can see that on the website, people.
They did refine their terms and conditions through 2021 once the vaccines actually started rolling out.
Yeah.
If you look at them, they are now somewhat specific and very rigid. So, you know, if you use a certain word or certain phrases, that's all, you know, part of the terms and conditions violation.
But yeah, I did the appeal. They said no. So
if it was a community guideline shot, I'm pretty certain this is what happened with Jeff's work and with a lot of the stuff that he used to upload. That would have been somebody flagging the video.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a community guideline strike used to be, well, it was back then anyway, basically somebody feels offended or they think you're saying something hateful or that kind of accusation, you know. So it's hurty feelings excuse. And that is the go-to excuse for the people out there that are actively trying to shut down this kind of conversation or the kind of information that Jeff used to upload. Yeah.
Well, if anybody wants to watch that one, it's still available on pleasestoptheride.com. I'll put a little video out and I'll link to it. So cool. I don't know how many people got to see it when it was on my channel, but it went away from his pretty fast. Yeah. But yeah.
That's all part of that algorithmic infrastructure as well that they're trying to, you know, cement in place. It's there, they just haven't fully implemented it yet. But you know, it will no longer require an operator who works at YouTube or works for Google to sit there and look at your channel and go, oh, you said something naughty there, or that video is a bit naughty, so you get a strike. It's done more and more by the algorithm now.
Yeah.
Eventually, there will be 0 humans with that position, so there is no, you know, human error that could happen, and everything is allegedly fair because it's all done by a robot system, and robots don't have feelings, so they can't be judgmental, allegedly.
Do you guys
know? The funny thing about the robots is that they're working so hard to humanize the robots while they're working hard to robotize the humans. Isn't that funny how they're like reversing things? It's part of their inverse world.
I think definitely, it's certainly that transhumanism normalization, by like they've done with the sexes, with the genders. You know, there is no male or female anymore. Now you just a thing. In the same way with the machinery, it's not human and robot. Soon enough, it will just be one thing. You're one and the same.
Especially maybe when they're very biologically constructed, these robots. Like,
yep.
Yeah, where do you draw the line?
Yeah, and at what point of, and this is probably going to become an ethical debate more and more. So I know it's already there. It's already been talked about a lot. But at what point, what percentage of alteration marks you as being no longer human?
Yeah.
Yeah. One injection, 1% of your biology or your DNA being altered, or they're going to come up with an arbitrary value at some point.
Well, and then there was all this stuff that was talking about how, there's more microbial life to you than there are you cells, So if they're replacing that life with their engineered biology, like, have we already got there? When do you say we've got there? Some of these people are really full of this stuff. Not that it has all the capabilities it could have someday, but I don't know. But I wonder about it.
Will we need a license, like a dog license? To be a natural human, you'll have to have a license. I suppose that will just be the identification, the social credit rating and whatever that will be, in effect, like a license.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys know the story, the Arthur C. Clarke story, the Dial F for Frankenstein?
Not that I remember, no.
It's a short one. I just came across it yesterday. I feel like I've seen it before though, but it's talking about how it's saying that December 1st, 1975, every telephone started to ring, that they had just 2 hours before that hooked the telephones of the world up to the satellites. So they'd interconnected them and turned it into like a brain.
Mhm.
And then through the story, all of these things start going wrong, like crashes and anything connected with computers or technology. There's issues, and like the lights flicker because it's draining the power. But they talk about it like a baby, a consciousness coming about and growing and getting stronger, sort of thing. But it's like it's they're this new network that they're building. That's what it keeps bringing to mind. Like when, because they talk about in here, like how do they sense things? It's like, well, all of the data that's been put in and the cameras and the TV stations and all that's their eyes. And I mean, we're giving this machine, or not, maybe not us, but other people, plenty of other people are giving the machine ears and little taste and everything. Like it's, I don't know. But then I thought it was really funny that it was Dial F for Frankenstein. It doesn't go into talking about Frankenstein, but the fact that I just came to it yesterday and they're talking about this massive super mind being created out there with the technology. It didn't go good. It wasn't a positive sort of thing. But
Seldom is.
yeah.
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 And
But
hello to Tinkle Tink in the chat as well. Thanks for joining in. And Kendo, hello. And Kanao, hello. And I just wanted to add this in. New Being was asking, might they use frequencies that cause illness and blame it on a pathogen? Yes, I think they could. It stood out to me, the question in relation to like dial F, because like you're dialing a particular frequency. But that's a bit of a separate discussion, really, talking about the use of frequencies and that kind of, I suppose you could describe it as sonic attack, which we've seen more of recently, with them openly using LRADs or sonic weapons against the public.
It's a very good possibility with the erection of all the towers, the Hive G towers that have been installing during the whole event that took place for the past 2 years, going on 3.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a very possible scenario.
I found it
There's too many things they're going to hit us with. So
a rather strained coincidence. I mean that in the sense of, I struggle to accept that it's purely coincidental. Maybe that's just my bias, but there was an old version of a computer game called Civilization, and in one of the add-ons that you could get for it, it allowed you to advance beyond what was called the modern age in the game, and you get into what they describe as future tech. And one of the things that you could develop and build in your civilization was these mind control antennas. And basically, the way the game described it is like these things emit a frequency that keep people calm and happy. So, it reduced unrest in your cities and things like that. It's funny, that was released like 20 plus years ago, I think, late 90s maybe, that, or early noughties, that game came out. And lo and behold, here we are now, where maybe we could have a semantic argument about whether it's just the frequency itself, or is it the use of the media that is being presented to people via that connection. You know, the connection is just the medium, the transmitter, as it were. But it's the media that people are being saturated with on an individual level that is causing that numbing effect, like the soma effect.
But break the signal, and people could see their really skeleton alien things.
Yeah, just like
Yeah.
they live. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've got one that can see.
Yeah. Yeah. Frankenstein. I wish that all of these children and all of these people that are participating in advancing this synbio nightmare world, because really I think synthetic biology is like the scariest thing that's going on. It's absolutely crazy. Of course, I don't have bombs raining down on me, or I don't know what's going on elsewhere in the world. But I think it's the scariest thing, and it's a cautionary tale. You know, it's like, oh, this obsession with can I do it, and want to conquer life, and then spending the rest of your life trying to destroy what you created because it ruined everything. It killed everything that you loved. It's so crazy. They should have to read it. I know I had to read it in high school. I hope they still do that.
It's I'm trying to think how to describe it. It's like the hubris of the mad scientist. You know, because they maybe some of this is kind of like a simplistic caricature. I don't know, because I've never met anyone that could be defined as a mad scientist. Yeah? But that hubris of they're more concerned with whether they can actually achieve it rather than whether it is going to end up with a good result. You know, should they do it?
Yeah.
And that has been true from what I've seen. That's been true pretty much throughout history. You know, there's plenty of examples of they do things just because they want to see if they can do them, and then they you know, they try and excuse or cover up the bad result that occurs afterwards. So, you know, a really good example from UK history is a drug called thalidomide.
Is that the flipper babies?
Yeah. It was issued to pregnant women. Supposedly it helped morning sickness. You know, it helped alleviate morning sickness. And it obviously, because the evidence became starkly visually apparent over a short period of time, in a few years, it caused major deformities in the newborn babies. And yet they tried to claim, oh no, it's just rare. You know, it's a rare risk. Don't worry about it. Keep taking
safe and effective.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And eventually, you know, just the sheer numbers, the scale of it, they couldn't deny it in the end anymore. But it took many, many, many years before they could admit that, it was mistakenly put out there. And maybe they should have checked it a bit more before they gave it to all those pregnant women. Yeah, funny that. Especially when money is involved.
By the time they wake up to everything that's happened to them over the last 2 years, it's not even going to matter. It's just going to be guaranteed sterile. And then we'll have to build the babies in the factories.
Yeah.
Raven World.
Good thing they've been planning for it.
But no, it will make them better than ever. To be better, make people better.
Yeah.
So build back better babies.
Yeah. Build better babies.
Yeah. That will be the next slogan. So what were the other elements in particular about the Frankenstein monster theme that you wanted to talk about or add in?
Well, I mean, the tiny life takeover really that's like the biggest thing in my brain, because if you're looking at the book, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, you know, they want to, or he wanted to find the elixir of life sort of thing, and conquer nature. And that's what so many of these people, they've got the children trained up into like, this is what they should do. This is like all the STEM training, and it's just what's normal and accepted and pushed and funded, and you'll get a job and all of this stuff. And then it just gets gets to the point where it destroys everything. It destroys everything. And then I don't know. I wish there was an easier way to suggest that it gets fixed other than like smash everything. But that's where my brain goes.
Do you think there's any possibility that that kind of technology can be applied in a safe and effective way, in a genuinely useful and beneficial way?
I don't know that I would ever trust it, because everything is connected now. And if that imprint of their God in the machine gets into any device, unless you're going to start everything from scratch, who's to say it couldn't be corrupted by the same thing? Like the one wacky guy in the video that I did, that Naveen Jain, who's teamed up with Singularity University, who I really wish people would look more at them there, because they have their little tentacles and so many things. But how he's saying, he thinks like the tiny life is the AI, or could be the AI, and it's like speaking itself into existence through the people, making it happen, because they've been steering us as puppets all along. And it's kind of silly sounding when you listen to his big whole story, but I don't know.
It does also leave the door wide open for people to connect it to other prophecies and theologies that predict a very similar thing, but for other reasons. Maybe he was deliberately, I don't know necessarily if it was by his own conscious choice, or maybe he was nudged by somebody or instructed by somebody, but maybe he was trying to describe it in that kind of fashion because he knows that for some people they will perceive it in that way. So, they're trying to soften the blow kind of thing. It's like the ice cream analogy. So like Elon Musk has described it, don't worry, we'll be pets for the AI,
Yeah. Yeah. He's the Naveen Jain guy, his company, they are making tailor-made for you all the things to culture your gut bacteria to be what it should be. They've got the food and the exercise and the drinks you should have and everything. Not saying it works. I'm just saying that's what he does.
And this has always been one of my favorite questions. Is like, so they're suggesting that the arguably millions and millions of years that the organisms that make up us, through that progress of development and change that we've gone through, all of that was just mistaken and wasn't functioning correctly.
I don't know. I think he almost seems like he's saying like it was the tiny life steering us just to get to this point so we can build this digital new baby to take over.
But that's what I mean. It's at that point that he thinks it then requires them to intervene because the natural system was getting it wrong. It wasn't functioning correctly, so they can provide the correction. To me, it's sort of like their argument is self-defeating based on their own premises, because their science is based on that principle of evolution. The cellular biology that they're working on was developed via processes that their own science describes in that kind of evolutionary manner. And one of the core fundamentals about that theory of evolution, or the principle of evolution, is that nature doesn't stand for anything that doesn't, stand up to the test. You basically die out. You are steadily eradicated because your cellular structure doesn't perform well enough to survive in this environment. So the very fact that we are here proves that nature has been getting it right. And everything we need for our gut to be correct already exists in nature, because we're part of that nature and we're here in existence now. Therefore, ourselves were getting it right all along. That's why we're here now.
Well, but then we've had since like the industrialization of food and everything, they've been changing, and only the hospitals keep some people alive, like that wouldn't have made it, and babies that wouldn't have made it, and everything that like We've been tweaking.
That does suffer though from the fallacy that it's unfalsifiable.
Yeah.
Because we don't have another separate timeline dimension where we can compare results. We can't like look through a lens at another planet, another Earth, where for the last 100+ years they haven't had all this kind of industrial intervention in the food, in the medicine, etc. So
Oh well, now if
you can't.
it's tiny life that came here and made the humans and made them into what they're supposed to be, like they've got their concept of panspermia, where they jettison spores off to other planets and dark spots in the sky to have them create life and go on and on and on. So maybe there are comparisons.
There will be out there.
Yeah.
It's one thing I do in general agree. How can I put it? The theory, the panspermia theory. I remember like years ago, I thought, yeah, it's a big possibility. But the more I've thought about it and the more other things I've learned, I don't think it's so much that life has to rely on the immense random possibility, because you are talking about staggering numbers of random chance. The odds against the successful panspermic insemination of a planet's biosphere is so immense, it's just mind-boggling. But it doesn't exactly work in that fashion, I would argue. The possibility for life to develop is everywhere. It's not special to Earth. The things that lead to what we generally describe as life forms, water-based, carbon-based, etc., that possibility exists everywhere. The problem is yes, there's a random chance that the mixture doesn't quite work. It's not quite in the habitable zone of that particular solar system, or there's caustic elements to the planet's atmosphere such that biological life doesn't develop, whatever. But the possibility for life to develop is universal, because it comes from the basic principle of what forms reality in the first place. A lot of their science is based on that atomistic principle, which would include something such as that kind of isolating concept of panspermia. They're envisioning it as if it's like literally like a sperm flying through space. So when you calculate the sheer vastness of what they tell us space is, the possibilities get massive. Do you see what I mean? If there's just this one little sperm of some kind of biological form on an asteroid flying through space, it has just a sliver of a possibility of encountering a planet, and then a sliver of a possibility that it takes hold and develops, etc., etc. The probabilities are almost at a level of impossibility.
Well, and I'm not saying that I think that it's what they've done, but like if they're jettisoning their like the biological converters, the printers and things, if they're pre-programmed and they can sample the atmosphere and sample this and how do we have to tweak it and everything. I'm not saying that that's what they're doing. I mean, maybe that would make a good sci-fi thing, but
there was one a few years ago. I think it's called Titan, something like that, or Titan AE.
Okay.
I remember Nonviolent Extremists mentioned it the other night, and I've forgotten. I think that's the title, so I remember. But it's one where they do that. They genetically alter this guy who's a volunteer, like a volunteer astronaut, basically. They genetically alter him to make him able to survive on Titan. They're already playing with that idea, and I do agree with you. Yeah, they'll more than likely do stuff like that. They'll send out what are like bioprinters, and if they encounter somewhere that has the possibility, they'll print out a version of humanity that suits the biosphere of that particular place where it's landed.
or like terraform the space to make it better for when they do print them, like change the makeup of the land and the atmosphere and everything, create an atmosphere.
They've been talking about
it's pretty crazy.
Genetically engineering astronauts with tardigrade DNA so that they can better sustain like a mission on Mars.
Is that those
so
like bear-looking little tiny little things?
Water bears.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they can handle being in space. They can handle being shot out of a gun, all those sorts of stuff like that.
Yeah, one of the most resistant life forms on the planet. I think it's an archaea, isn't it? It's a separate genus. It's not part of our evolutionary tree. It's a side branch. But yeah, really interesting. They can withstand absolute ridiculous extremes, and at the worst, they basically go into like a suspended animation state.
Oh, it's like the spores.
Yes, yeah.
Which
So they'll survive. Potentially, they'll survive for thousands and thousands of years.
And another thing,
I think this is definitely stuff we should mess with.
They can handle 5G no problem too. So can scorpions. So I was thinking that what if, with all the 5G towers that go up and people are getting sick like that, what if they propose, putting tardigrade DNA in people so that they can better, handle that kind of environment? Possible.
Because you don't want to give up your smartphone.
Problem reaction solution there. Yeah, exactly. You can't just.
I can't.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking out loud, trying to remember who it was. It might have been that Church guy, George Church, but I'm sure I've heard one of them talk about the possibilities of altering people such to make them more resistant to radioactivity, so they could do things such as clean up Fukushima or Chernobyl, that kind of environment.
Nice. They can always also use the microbes for that. There was, I remember a one that Jules, my friend Jules, that before the first cup that she had talked about years ago, that ate like toxic waste and pooped out gold, little microparticles. It's like, oh, it's a good thing they've got all these wastelands set aside that they can then have synthetic biology come in and save the day. You don't want to have a landfill. You don't want a Superfund site.
I think nature already has given us a gold bug like that. But I'm maybe biased because my reference to gold would be cheese. Cheese is gold. And it is a magical process where we benefit from exactly the same kind of process. We utilize these little bacterias that eats the milk, the curds and everything, and then they poo out this lovely stuff that we call cheese.
And they say that since like 1990, those little life forms that are helping make that happen, the little bits that are making it happen, is synbio based. They're not using the calf stomach anymore. No. They're not. It's
cultured.
Yes, because then there's standards and exact amounts that you can just add one tablet to your cheese recipe, and it's going to be for sure enough to make it happen, and safe and pure and clean and sustainable and green, all the good things. But cheese is wonderful. All those things that are yummy. Like I'd like to eat yogurt still, but I don't know. I don't know what these things, I don't know what they do. And I don't know so many, they've got yeast that can be biological factories. They've got all their spore bacteria and who knows what else. And all these things, they do taste so good.
Do you think it might be an arms race such that whether they're already doing this, possibly, but it goes a bit against the narrative, so I think it might get a bit suppressed. But are there any companies working on stuff that will negate or turn inert those kind of symbiocellular factory things? Sort of like a counter that you can take or drink,
I don't know. And I know they're openly selling, they call them GMO, probiotic drinks and things that you don't want a hangover, do you? You can drink this openly GMO life to fix that, your own attacks on your body with alcohol. But I don't know if I can't imagine they'd get much funding. Can't imagine DARPA's Bill's not pushing it,
I suppose maybe it's come as part of the development while they've been working on all that other stuff, but they've just not let anyone know about it. They've kept it aside for themselves.
People say that DARPA, they do kill switches now. So maybe, they probably just have it hidden, not tell us.
Well, it's no good having a weapon that you can't control.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing I was trying to describe earlier when I was saying about if they do want to claim that there's a new pathogen been released, they don't really want to release something that they can't control. Or
unless they're in their bunker.
Yeah, unless they've got some kind of pre-prepared defense for it. But yeah, when they all start disappearing off to their DUMBs, their deep underground military bases, some of that has already been happening, hasn't it? Like, all the CEOs stepping down and things like that.
Yeah.
We'll tell you what, what about, because I've sort of asked in a way about not so much solutions, but counters. Are there any counters or solutions to some of the stuff that they're trying to just surreptitiously add into the environment? Because a lot of the things that you mentioned, and I know a lot of the things that you've been researching and keeping an eye out and, looking at their what they publish, they're like adverts and their commercial talking points, etc. They're not necessarily waiting for the public to ask for this stuff. It's completely the other way around, if anything. They're just telling us that we need it and want it. So they're going to introduce it, whether we're, people like us are saying no or not. They're going to be putting this stuff out there. So what other things are possible as counters or solutions to some of the stuff they've been developing?
One of the comments I got on the video was, should we start building domes? And I know, Anonymous, you looked at all of the dome programming, and I know I see it in books all the time and for future stuff of people living closed off, but they're already messing with the seeds and everything. I don't know. I wish I could think of other than smash it all. That's really the only thing that's really the only place that my brain goes, is that we would have to just not just give up the tech, but destroy what's there. But I don't
get rid of it.
Yeah, I really just don't even know, because if it was all built by these people, if it all stemmed from these minds, it's where maybe it was always destined to go and to lead to. I really don't know. I wish I knew. I would say, yeah. I try personally to avoid as much as I can of ingesting the stuff that openly says that it's full of this stuff. But if I go to a store, or the library or something where they're pumping in the better air, and that stuff that they say it's human safe, but that these spores, they make biofilms and they're competitive too. Like when they get in your gut, I've looked at studies from before that, when I was looking at this with Jules years ago, that they are competitive and will take out your natural strains that are there, whatever's still there after glyphosate and all the other things that have killed off or mutated or whatever. I don't know. It seriously, like, I'm not even joking about the title of the video. This is what keeps me up at night. I don't know, and I hate it, and I wish I could wake up tomorrow and it would be better. I do.
But it still comes back to some fundamental options of avoid it as much as you can.
Yeah.
And look towards more a natural ingredient, a natural environment. You know, your body has survived, not necessarily you individually, but I mean, you know, people, humans, beings, we've survived for millions of years, even in slightly different forms, maybe, but you know what I mean? Not all necessarily Homo sapiens sapien, but basically the same being. So we've been getting something right for many, many, many years. So, yeah.
But how long has the assault been happening? You know, like,
Yeah.
and they're getting bigger and faster with everything that they're doing, more powerful.
Certainly,
So,
I think the last couple of 100 years at least.
yeah.
You're going back to like the 1700s again. Usual arguments. You know, it's been since the mother of Parliament, basically.
Yeah.
In one way or another. That was the beginning of the global system. Even though it's never been truly the kind of one world system that we're often referencing when we talk about these kind of things, but it has been a global system of one form or another since around the 1600s at least. Yeah.
Maybe one possible thing would be to like talk about, like, I'm not saying shun, but like shame the children and the people. I'm shaking my finger right now. Like that, like anybody that would be involved in this STEM sort of stuff, and like teach your children. Not that, I mean, shoot, if they bring this raining down on us, who knows how much time, but that this is not like, life isn't there just to be your toy, your tinker toy, you know, and it's like that's being bad. That's
I think it's a good point, a good observation to remind people of it. Even though maybe in this particular subject we're talking about synthetic biology, biotech, you know, things that have a physicality to them, even if they're very, very tiny, like nano, yeah. But that's all in relevance to the body. But you have to take in the body, mind, and spirit. And I think, you know, probably well used to the kind of way I approach some of this stuff. Yeah, I don't think you can truly counter it with a singular approach. So just trying to address the problems attacking the body is not how we're going to deal with the overall problem. You know, as you say, you've got to help other people, in particular the younger generations, the new generations, to see this stuff for what it is and realize how immensely dangerous it could be, or already is in many ways.
Yeah,
and that involves not just the mind, it also involves their spiritual selves as well, you know, making them appreciate what this reality is and the fact that we are here, we survived for these millennia and we're still here. Yeah.
And Vanonymous and I we're going to be working on a flyer. I know we're going to put it on. I was going to put it on the website so people could download, that they could print and like give to their at farmers markets and things. Which maybe it'd be too late. Maybe they've already planted this stuff and used these new regenerative. I'm doing little bunny ears that maybe they're already using these techniques and have already polluted and everything, but to warn them that like these same companies that destroyed farming through their synthetic chemical systems, like people, not everybody, I mean, shoot, my dad loves GMOs, his word loves. He also thinks Bill Gates is a modern day hero. So, but that,
oh wow,
I know, but that, now to warn them that now it's synthetic biology that they're going to sell with pretty words, and so we're working on that, right, Anonymous? We're working on that to get something that people can print themselves and hand out and warn people outside of the machine. Use the machine to get the information, then warn them outside the machine.
Yeah.
But,
we're gonna miss the days of just GMOs
exactly.
to deal with, because it's gonna be so much worse.
GMOs
aren't even scary to me anymore. It's like, okay.
No, and man. Like you can't even read your ingredients lists anymore. Like, I'll never forget this video. My computer crashed though, and I don't have it anymore, so I can only tell you about it. But like, they were talking about beer, and they were talking about how, oh, when you already have hop oil on the ingredients list, when you already have hops and hop oil on the ingredients list, you don't even have to mention that you've enhanced the flavor with a synbio created hop oil, because it's already on the list, and a molecule is a molecule, and it doesn't matter where it comes from. And yeah, you can't yeah, give me a fish tomato any day, you know. Gosh.
This tomato gives you wings.
Oh, literally.
Yeah, literally.
Butterfly wings.
Yeah. It may be a bit of a tangent in a way, but I was thinking about the usual butterfly analogy that many people use. And I was considering the fact that, like, most people don't point out that the caterpillar dies in the process. There's no nice way to describe it other than, when people talk about, oh, the caterpillar becomes the butterfly. It doesn't become the butterfly. The caterpillar has no memory. The butterfly has no memory of being a caterpillar, because the caterpillar is completely dissolved into a bio goo that is then used to construct the butterfly. And why is it? I know they're pretty to look at, but why is it nobody ever uses the analogy of the maggot and the fly? Because they go through exactly the same process, but they like to make people focus on the little pretty thing, and it transforms. Yeah, it's like, right, what you're talking about is just a biological process. It makes a pretty little analogy, but it's not really something you should give people as like a meaning to reality, if that makes sense. Yeah, you can improve yourself. You can be more than what you were yesterday. Every day is an opportunity to grow and become something better, to improve yourself, to deal with your flaws and problems, etc. But that doesn't mean you literally dissolve yourself using synthetic biology stuff and then turn yourself into something else. No.
I'm just thinking of the alkaline hydrolysis, the water cremation, the dissolving.
Yeah. And they will. I know this may be a bit dark for many people, but I do see the potential in a not too distant future where they'll turn around and claim that, well, protein is protein.
Yeah.
And, you're already living with an environment where some of your foodstuffs, in particular the mass-produced, industrially mass-produced foodstuffs, they have to acknowledge that their products will contain a certain amount of human parts, because they know that at some point in the whole production chain, somebody might, accidentally catch a finger in a machine, and they might not lose the whole finger, but it only takes a tiny little slice, and there you go. You've now got human bits in that food product, and they cannot guarantee that they can eradicate all possibility of that taking place. So at some point they're going to turn around and, like that liquefaction process, they'll say, well, we can just add it into the protein bars. You'll never notice. It won't taste any different, and it's all protein.
Well, like where
it's just proteins and peptides, and it's very nutritious.
The building blocks of life. Yeah. But like the fruit sugars and things that I looked at in the sugar video that I did, and then Jeff and I did a show on it. Like they don't have to say anything, because they say there's no bits of the tiny life that was modified that in the final product, or no perceptible bits, and so they don't have to mention where it came from or anything. I think I think they'll feed the people slurry to the bugs to create anything and everything. Everything is set to become into existence because of these little life forms that they're making into factories. Like they want to make everything that way.
Mm-hmm.
Everything.
Yeah, I do agree with you completely. It becomes more problematic in the kind of like the ethical equation, because again, we already have done, we throughout history, we have done a very similar process using natural processes. You know, people were buried in areas that were then later on tilled as agricultural land. You know, people were used as fertilizer, basically. And there's a lot of cultures throughout history that have actually directly applied that principle, so that, you know, they would put blood in the soil. You know, they'd walk up and down the farm field sprinkling blood into the soil and things like that, because they thought they needed to put the life back into the plant to, you know, guarantee a crop and things like that. But
well, I'm okay with that. Plant me and plant an apple tree on top, you know?
Yeah.
I'm all right with that.
That's something I've thought about many times when I've been, you know, thinking about, oh, I'm getting older, maybe I should write a will at some point. And I thought, yeah, I'd like one of those natural burials where they just put you in a basket in a traditional upright seated position, and then they plant a tree on top of you. So the tree basically eats your corpse to fuel its growth.
See, I like that. Does that make me weird? I think that sounds peaceful and nice. I like that.
I'm the same. I've been thinking about it for years. I'm sure they'll probably turn around and say, well, if you let us turn you into liquid, we can spray you on loads of trees.
Yeah. You could be part of so much more. Yeah.
So, no, mate, I just want to be one tree so that I can, you know, go at people occasionally. Shake my leaves at them.
I tell you.
Sorry.
No, when I was looking at the water cremation thing and I was watching these videos where they're talking about, I'd never thought about it. In my hometown, there's crematories all over the place, and it's like you're breathing them all in. You're breathing them all, and then we put the fluid from embalming down the drain. Oh boy, of course all kinds of things go down the drain, but I never thought about it. I want to be under a tree. I'm with you, Cookie.
Yeah. At least then we'll hope, you know, like you're saying, if it's an apple tree or something like that, hopefully then, you know, we can be in a secondary fashion perpetuating our DNA, you know, fulfilling our base primary drives, but in a very kind of vicarious fashion through the fruit that we produce.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, I noticed that you've got the meal and ice cream machine. So that little vending machine pumps out hot dogs and burgers and ice creams. Yeah. If you're really, really, really desperate, then yeah, it's something to eat. But
it's not really ice cream. It's just a definable term that's legally allowed to be called ice cream. Yeah.
Sorry, folks, I'll put the link in the chat. I keep forgetting. Really graceful. Hello.
Hi, Grace.
Thanks for joining in the chat. I hope you're well. I hope the little baby's not keeping you awake every night. Yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to cover or mention?
I threw in a couple other links there. I threw in remember back in 2018 or whatever, Swedish scientists suggest eating human flesh to save the climate. That goes along with the whole eating people stuff. And then you guys were talking about being composted. Basically, there's that company called Recompose.life where they're all about composting humans. It's very creepy.
You see, I don't want to go to a compost farm. I just want to dig a hole.
Just jump in a hole.
Yeah, well, I don't think I'd get to jump. I don't want to jump in the hole. I'd like to wait till I can't jump.
Yeah, wait until they push
right on the verge of death. Just jump in a hole.
Yeah, I'll be over here. Get the tree.
It's that one. Swedish scientists float eating human flesh as solution to global climate change. We need to eat the babies. Eat the babies.
Yeah, I got that one too. If you want the link to that. But that was a staged thing, just to put that in people's minds.
Yeah.
The whatever that woman was part of that group, whatever they're called,
The pink
Roach or
was it?
something. Pack.
I thought it was something pink. Didn't they all used to wear the little pink ribbon?
No, this one's a different group. It's like a conservative group.
I was just wondering
just,
the date. The date on this one, September 9th, 2019. So
yeah, a lot of Canada articles came out in 2019, just before the whole thing took off.
What was the timing? I think it was approximately the same. The release of the Thanos movie, that was the first in the two they did for that storyline, wasn't it? I think that was 2019. So,
probably.
yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah. Again, it adds into that they want the public thinking about this kind of stuff in particular. You know, that we're all expendable, essential or non-essential, and consumable. Yeah.
I've covered a lot of the whole the changes in how the dead are dealt with, and a lot of it's conditioning everyone to look at people with more resources than actual people, especially with the green burials, because they bury you in a shroud, and the markers will also degrade too, so that eventually there's no record of you at all. And in Vancouver, they were started stacking people in graves, basically, like they would be buried in the same plot, years apart, but it's basically a mass grave kind of thing.
I was just going to say, where was the line for the mass grave? Yeah.
And they actually recently came out with another article saying that to prevent pollution in the ground that would get your groundwater from the traditional burial, that they should start stacking people in graves, and it would be more. They would build a system that would be better at filtering out toxins that could go into your groundwater. But if you look at the statistics, more people get cremated than they do traditional burials, so it's not even an issue. It's
but they put their liquids down the drain.
Yeah, exactly. They liquefy people and right in your sewers, no problem.
The blood and everything, if they don't do the water cremation, exactly.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, all that goes down the drain.
In human composting to ensure respectful, empathetic service. The body's transformation into soil.
I wonder if they have a picture of the facility, because it's like a big old honeycomb. It's great.
Of course.
Total hive mind program in there. I don't know. It's just a bunch of freaking twigs in the pictures.
Yeah,
Show the hive.
I don't like these modern website designs. They're obviously meant to be viewed on a handheld device of some kind, and they're just like,
yeah, everything's mobile friendly.
Yeah, and they're usually heavily visual. Again, like some of the stuff I mentioned earlier, they're really pushing the boundaries of this visual media now. So everything's got to have this kind of, eye appeal to it. And there's less and less actual information for you to digest. It's just simple sound bites. And usually dumbed down in the extreme, because they know most of the public can't deal with complex ideas or uncomfortable concepts. You don't
Here's a link to the image, the image I was talking about of the facility. Just sent it.
Let me post the link to that site first in the chat box before I forget. That was that recompost one. And the not so pleasant Swedish meatballs one. Those are some spicy meatballs. Yeah, not the kind of meatballs you want, really. Let me get this image open, and I'll screen share it. Oh yeah, I see what you mean. There's definitely like honeycomb programming in it. Screen share. There we go. Hopefully you should be able to see that. Zoom it in a little bit.
So those are all compost bins?
Human compost bins.
Nice.
So 10. So there's 10 in that unit. I'm guessing these bits over here are some of the liquid containers. Looks like there's
Perhaps.
some kind of, or that could be venting duct probably to take off gassing out. Yeah, they make it sort of look, they try to make it look a bit more appealing by adding some visual cues. You know, so don't worry about all this stuff. You just remember you're being turned into a tree.
It's nature.
Yeah. Funny how it looks remarkably like a morgue. But, you know, each unit is obviously designed to do that process, the decomposition process. It's a lot more of a kind of industrialized setup as well. So the company doing this is obviously planning ahead. You know, they're thinking ahead. This kind of setup could be installed in a what they'd call a light industrial unit, pretty much in any town, you know, probably attached to a local residential area. It will be on a commercial sector block in your local area, so you won't even have to be taken very far. Yeah, reduce all the energy consumption. I've seen a similar process done for forensic analysis. I can't remember the term they used for it. It was like a corpse study environment for people training to do forensics, and they had a sequencing system where the bodies would gradually, like, they'd be put in a certain order so that they degraded at a different rate. So like you go to
Like
the
a body
first one.
farm.
Yeah, you go to
Yeah,
the
they
first
have that one of
one.
those in Vancouver.
Yeah,
Just
the
to
first
find
one would be
people
like
signing
1
up for it,
week's
apparently.
1 week's
What's that?
decomposition. The first
Oh,
one
yeah.
would be like 1 week, and then the second one would be a month, and the third one would be 6 months. You know, so you could see the state of decay.
Ugh.
It's all nature. You know, your body, your physical form is that part of you that's within the natural environment. So, you know, our physical form goes through that process.
I know, but I want the hole in the apple tree. I don't want to lay on the surface. Scavengers. Then you become part of the animal world.
And just to reiterate as well, because if unless there's anything else you want to add, I was going to finish it up there and like wind up to, it's just coming up to 20 past. So we've been going for approximately a couple of hours.
Yeah. I've covered all the pile of books and the notebook I have.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of mentioned everything. Smash all the things. And please stop eating yogurt. You know, no. And all the other things.
Yeah, I would reiterate as well that approach of avoid as much as you can, but don't think that it's just to do with your body, just your physical body. You know, they're coming at you from all angles, so they want to mess with you psychologically as well as spiritually. They want to make you feel detached from the natural world while they replace the natural world with this synthetically created version. So don't think it's just about manipulating your physical form. It's not. They want to transform us completely, which means transforming our minds, and I think from their point of view, they want to eradicate completely any concept of a spiritual reality or a divine realm or anything like that. They want you to believe that everything is purely physical only. That way you will be more psychologically aligned to accept them upgrading. Yeah, I'm doing a little bunny ears finger wiggling there. So upgrading your physical form. You know, if you think all that exists is the physicality of your body, you might be more, you know, okay with them changing bits to make you look better or work better or whatever excuse it is they tell you.
Yeah.
Well,
It's just we're so uplifting.
I was just thinking about, you know,
It's-
something we could say to end it on a happier note, not so morbid and dark.
We should have saved
Yeah.
the song for the end. Oh.
Well, I've got to put the perfect song for that ending, and I can quite easily play that. So for that, again, I'll say thanks to Jeff for leaving us with that song, and I'll play it as we finish up the show. At the end of it, I'll end the broadcast at the end of the song. So thanks to everyone who's participated in the chat. Thanks for joining
everybody.
in.
It was nice to talk to you guys again.
Well, you're always
It's
welcome.
been a long time.
I know.
Yeah,
It's nice.
Yeah, I know it can be a bit awkward
I think we're all
sometimes.
almost settled in our spots, eh? You got your house
yeah.
all set up now, hey Camille?
Yeah, it's
all good to go
it's a
now.
whole big excursion to come and do the internet thing. The internet's not that great out there, but that's all right. We'll be back.
Yeah.
It won't be so long.
For sure.
More than twice a year. Come on.
Yeah. I've been getting, you know, demand for it, so people are liking it.
Yeah.
Cool. Good. Well, thanks to all of them for tuning in and listening and giving us their attention for a couple of hours or so. Yeah.
So we could depress the crap out of them.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the biggest struggle in this environment is because there's such immense competition for people's time. So I think, again, it's one of those things to be aware of. The system is like a vampire, metaphorically. It will consume all your time and distract you in every way they can get away with. So, yeah. I know time is just a conceptual thing, but it's still something that you consider in your, when you're thinking about how you deal with all this stuff. Don't waste all your time just looking at information on the internet or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a lot about the rest
if
of
you're
life.
looking at information, look at useful information that's good for you and what benefits you in your life, not so much all the dark crap that's happening. Just
then
look for stuff that will benefit you. Yeah, and then go outside for a nice long walk.
Yeah.
That's a good one to leave it on. Let me find that song file. I'll say thanks again, folks. Hopefully we'll be back in less than half a year. Then we'll do another ice cream social. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for tuning in.
Grow your own food.
Yeah, get outside.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to find that file. And I know it's there. It is. Right, okay. Cut cheese.